Welcome again. By the way, anybody can weigh in on our website at purpleamerica.us or here in the Purple Tent on our shared values. There are monitors in the back where you can register and you can rank the 12 shared values that we discovered around the country in this Purple America tour. Our first speaker is Sarah Ruble, and Sarah was born and raised in Akron, Ohio. She's a co-author of Surviving and Thriving, Grief Relief and Continuing Relationships, and a contributor to the newly released Grief Diaries, Loss of a Child, and Grief Diaries, Hello from Heaven. Her blog is titled Death Teaches, where Sarah openly shares what Scott's death continues to teach her about love, the meaning of life and death, and her spiritual relationship with him. And give a warm reception to Sarah Ruble.
Thank you, Stuart. I am so honored to be here today. The Purple Tent is something that I always hope that I live by, but to be able to see the passion and the love that all of these people that are involved in the Purple Tent have after seeing this video is just stunning to me. So again, my name is Sarah Ruble. I'm so grateful to be here. I have, as a teacher, I was someone that always tried to instill these kind of values in children, but as a mom, I had to start looking at these in an even deeper way. So I do want you to know, as I stand up here today, I come from a place as a mom, but also as a teacher, but also as a resident of Stowe, Ohio, as an American who hopes and dreams that everything that we're doing, here today and beyond can benefit more and more children, more and more families, for us to all see the love and respect and all the tenets of the Purple Tent become a reality in even bigger ways than we can see today. My story starts with my son, Scott, who at age 19 was at Miami University in Ohio and was, I think, carried many of the tenets of the Purple Tent with him as he delivered his messages to his friends and just was a good buddy, a soccer player. And he found that really engaging with others just brought people closer to him. And so as I watched Scott grow and become more and more of a really leader in his community, he had been a senior class president at his high school in Stowe, Ohio. And really so much of who Scott was becoming, I really discovered mostly at his calling hours, because Scott died at age 19 of natural causes, very suddenly. He was working at a national park in the summer in between his freshman and sophomore years of school, and he ended up with strep throat. He had a seizure disorder that came out of nowhere when he was 15 that added to his death, dehydration and elevation. So suddenly this child that I had been nurturing and giving all of the aspects of Purple Tent, love, respect, kindness, civility, collaboration, all of those kinds of things that his dad and I had been trying to deliver to Scott, nurture him to become that kind of a young boy, and then as a young man, those kinds of things we were discovering more and more about Scott that he was doing, not just around us, but really at his high school. And so at calling hours, when we saw the students and they came in to tell us how much they had loved Scott and how sad they were, of course, they were telling us all these stories that just lifted our spirits in ways that it was like this child of ours that we so worked so hard, our only child, had really taken so much of this in and tried to be the most kind and supportive friend that he could be to all of the kids at his high school, and particularly after he became student class president. We heard stories of how he would yell to someone and go, "Hey, Todd, how you doing?" And Todd didn't even know that Scott knew his name. So Scott was wanting that child, he didn't really know him very well, to feel valued in this life. And I think so much of what we're doing here at the Purple Tent is to create an opportunity for our children and for the moms and dads, the adults that we live around, but particularly the children, to see who they are, so that they can then become better students, better friends, better mentors, and just be a better part of the community as they grow up. And so as I wrote all kinds of wonderful information here to share with you, I think I'm just going to tell you more about the aspects of Scott and then who I've become since Scott died as a mother of a child that was very much interested in creating a better story for himself and all those people around him. So as I was able to glean from Scott who he had been, I kind of have had to take that on the road myself and become somewhat of a motivational speaker, but also someone that now talks to many other people besides bereaved parents, because we have to find ourselves anew after our child has died or our children have died in a way that we didn't know who we were. Suddenly we're starting from square one. And I learned to become much more grateful for the people that reached out to help me. And in doing that, I saw how people are often uncomfortable with talking about something that is so unknown to them, the death of a child. But in doing that, as I opened up their hearts, and then they became more able to see what my life was about and what I was going through, I was able to see a growth in them. I was an elementary school teacher for many years. There's still a teacher in me, and I know that continues to come out in everything that I do. And so using this voice that I gained in the saddest of ways, but also in a way that allowed me to see myself having something really necessary and needing to be heard, I've been using the tenets of the Purple Tent in trying to teach people about grief and bereavement and who we become in that unusual but yet more common than ever setting. And so my hope today is to be able to allow you to see that there is more to me and to you, to each of us, than we've ever really known. When there is a passion within us that we want to teach others, and we want them to know that we care deeply about them, we have to make an effort to do that in a way that maybe we've never done before. There needs to be a greater awareness, and that's what I hope to deliver today. An awareness that if we take the time to spend time with someone, sit down with them, we are then more able to see what their views are on whatever it is that they are confused about in their life, about my story, about what their child is going through on this path. So as a teacher, I would like to really be able to stress that I believe that awareness of all this is really the utmost need. And what we're doing here today is delivering that. So as a mom, I've done this. As a student, I hoped I did it. But as a child, what do we do with a child that is so confused in life, whether they've been in a irregular kind of household, or they are bullied at school, or there is something that they need that we don't know how to give them? We have to sit down and have a dialogue with them. And this is such an important part of what we do with a purple tent, is to say we have to have a dialogue here. So we open you up to you releasing and talking about those issues that you're challenged by as a child or as an adult, but also to know that if we are able to come to a middle ground and have an understanding of who we are and what we're doing day to day with friends and family and others, we then pass that on to our children. And there's many times when I see people driving down the road so angry, and I see children in the car, and I see road rage taking place. And I find that so hard to witness, because if I see that in a car with a father or a mother or whoever it may be, I also wonder what's going on in their home and how that child is being able to, it's being raised in an environment that is not perhaps as healthy as maybe we would hope that it would be. So I think as parents of children, parents of no matter what age child, I think we begin to look at ourselves, as I had to do with Scott, and we begin to look at ourselves and say, how am I showing the values that I want my child to carry in this life? Am I being kind, first of all, to the family, Am I taking that to a place where I care deeply about everyone in my family? Am I exhibiting that when I'm talking to my child and his friends? Or am I being curt and I'm not being able to really deliver the message that I want? And so as we look at ourselves as family members, as teachers, as nurturers, as parents, we look at ourselves and say, am I doing all that I can do? Or do I need a greater awareness? Do I need to learn more about being kind, being respectful, sharing, my story, collaborating, and actually having a conversation on all of these things? We can do that at home. We can do that in a classroom. We can be the teacher that takes the moment-to-moment time to say, this isn't the way that we talk to one another. Let's do this. Let's have a little bit of role-playing right now, and let's find a way that we can talk to one another that would show that we genuinely care about one another, that we are not enemies within the classroom or the family, that we need to see each other in ways that we can continue a relationship that is going to enhance our lives and the lives of those around us. And so in a family, I would hope that as parents, we do look at that role as a role model. And we say, am I providing everything that this child needs? Because really, the change starts with us as a mother or father. We start there. We can't always depend on the school to take care of the needs that we need to nurture at home to begin with. Yes, in school, many episodes happen, many kinds of different challenges arise. But if a child has not come into the classroom with some already established, established modes of coping with situations, they are not going to be able to do it in a classroom with 30 children or 25 children that are all hyper or active and doing their own thing. So we begin to look at how, as parents, we are really doing a better job of role modeling and teaching our children by watching television shows and pulling out certain aspects of a show that you think that is not really something that I want you to pay attention to. I want you to be a child that cares about others and is not bullying and is not ready to hit right away at the first words that came out of someone else's mouth. And so we begin to look at our child and say, as their mom, I need to stop you right here and let you know that we have to do a better job of talking to one another and looking at what is the needed aspect for each child in your family. Another aspect of this that is so important is the respect as a child needs from us. How do we respect a child when we know that they aren't always sure what they're doing? We nurture that. We take the time to say, we have to do a better job. When you respect someone else, then they can respect you. It's always a mutual kind of environment. I saw this with Scott in so many ways when he would take the time to sit with someone that was challenged or not able to really see themselves fully. And so Scott, my child, was doing this in his own ways within his school. And we all have that ability once we're aware. And I think what Stuart is doing with all of this is allowing us to have a venue, to have an open conversation about this. So our children, so important. And let's continue to look at what their needs are rather than ours. And let's be role models, that we don't have to be, I have to say this, I guess, but as a bereaved mom, one of my inspirations was the mother that created Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And she did something so profound to teach others about drunk driving because her own daughter had died. But she became an inspiration. And she changed the way that I was a modern-day mom drinking at home or whatever I was, because I felt strongly that I needed to role model for Scott, that if I was driving home drunk or driving home after a party, that was something that needed to be talked about. And so when we're inspired by someone, then we can carry their story. We can carry what they are hoping to deliver to us. And that is something that I now do in more ways than I've ever known as I talk to different groups. But I think when we talk with our children, we show them how much we care, and we also are showing them in different ways to kind of bring that forward. Have you taken your child out and said, let's do some random acts of kindness? Let's go into a Taco Bell and see if we can't buy lunch for 5 people and see how that makes that person feel. And as a person that has done random acts of kindness, what I found was that people are so surprised when you do something nice for them that they did not expect, they did not anticipate. And my husband and I did this one day on Scott's birthday when it was a day we really did not know what to do to help myself in this journey of grief. But we went to Taco Bell, where Scott absolutely loved to eat. And we started buying lunch for people. And at Taco Bell, it's what, $3.99, $4 for a good meal at Taco Bell. And we just stood by and we allowed them to just be surprised, first of all, that their meal was free. But also we handed them a random act of kindness card that I was doing in memory of my son. In doing that, and if you teach your own children to do random acts of kindness, they find that they feel filled up because they're doing something for someone else, but they're doing it for them, but they're doing it for themselves as well. And so we all start to see by these small steps that we take that we are able to teach and to role model. And that is something that I'm hoping that you can take home. And in a classroom, as you're seeing this today, to know that if you look at the person that's sitting next to you or behind you, and even if you're not a good friend with them, find a way to engage with them in a conversation. And I think that you'll find that there's much more that you have in common maybe than you didn't have in common. And we have so many issues nowadays with race relations and that kind of thing, that if you can teach your child to engage with another of another race, a challenged child, and hear what their story is and what it is that they would like you to know, if you're a different race or if you are just a different kind of friend, to learn about them and to find that they have something that may be very common in both of you. And so we encourage our children to see more. If they're watching television and they are afraid of that which is on TV, allow them to continue to have a dialogue with you throughout that so that it lessens their fears, and then they're able to maybe even talk with some of their friends with what mom or dad shared. As I looked at Scott and all that he was bringing me as my son, but all that he was bringing his fellow students, I felt that he was growing tremendously by being a friend to all, and by showing that his fear of being senior class president, let's say, turned into one of joyfulness because he felt that he was changing friends' lives around him. So as we all are working towards the tenets here, civility, how do we do that with our children? We show them, we talk to them, and we say, are you ready to create something that's more easily done than you think? Are you willing to take the time to sit with a friend and teach them and say, I really, really hope that we can be friends after all this conversation because I didn't know you before, and I'm loving who you are. I'm finding a new friendship that I didn't think I would have. And so they begin to listen in ways that they hadn't. They begin to know that all of the cornerstones of the Purple Tent become a part of their life. And when we start with our children, we are then that much more able to see them grow into adults, as I was seeing Scott grow, into an adult who was then going to provide so much more to this world than by not being someone who was civil or a collaborator or cared about others. I feel it's so important that for all of us that we look at each child and say, what is it that you need today that I can give you as an adult or even as a classmate in your school? So knowing that we can leave these legacies within our families and then take them out into the classroom, into our church, into areas that really, really need that perspective that we can bring that says, let's work together instead of fighting one another. We can have a voice, and we can have a strong voice, but it needs to be one that is teaching of greater awareness and teaching the values that will then become the values of the adults that we hope will become the politicians and the heads of companies and the great employers that we need to treat one another with the love and the respect that we all think we deserve, but are we delivering that ourselves? So within this, as I tell you, as a bereaved mom, I've also taken what Scott taught me and what I've been learning into the national conferences that I speak at, as I try to encourage parents who are so confused now with their own lives, that they have a duty to their other children. They have a challenge themselves to see themselves in ways that they never saw themselves before. There's really a defining moment between before your child dies and after your child dies, that we have to step up and we have to begin to see ourselves in ways that we couldn't before. But we can do this with love, and we can do this with expression, and we can do this in ways that we maybe didn't even know that there's a strength within us that is beginning to show up. I do believe we all have an inner strength within each of us that is that much stronger, but until we're put into a situation that challenges us, we don't tap into that often. But when you're put into that place, and it seems like the only thing that you can do is start to try and do the right thing, to respect others, to respect that their journey is different than yours, to value who they are. And yes, there's tough days. There are many tough days in life, and whether you've lost a child or if you're a child that's in the 3rd grade and learning how to write. There's many challenges in life that once we have resources within that says this isn't the end of the world, I can find a way to do this without getting angry. I can do this in a way that says I don't have to scream about it. I just need to think about this for a minute and say, how am I going to handle this situation? I saw Scott do that. I've seen myself do that. I've seen others do that in ways that inspire me. And don't we all need to be inspired? Don't we all look for those quotes that say, let me see something more in myself? And one of Scott's most favorite quotes by Mahatma Gandhi, which I'm sure you have read or know of, is be the change you wish to see in this world. So I think as we go into these 3 days here with the Purple Tent and hearing other speakers give their perceptions and their views, we begin to see, am I building a new belief system? Am I seeing things in me that I didn't think of before, that I think I need to take into me so that I'm able then to be a better teacher or a better friend or a better spouse or a better friend, a better anything. So let's all look at that and let's challenge ourselves. In the middle of this convention that we have here that we've heard, anything can happen and there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of concerns going on through this. Let's look at ourselves and say, I'm going to use the cornerstones of all of this that is bringing me the kindness, the caring, the civility, the collaboration. I need all of this to be a better mother, spouse, a better friend, someone that can actually talk about all these issues that are at hand without getting angry. So I thank you very much for this time. Thank you, Stuart, for this time to be able to express my thinking. And as we kick off this next 3 days of the Purple Tent and the values that we need to discuss and get them out in the open so that it's not a mystery to all of us, that we are getting other people's views, which is so important to becoming all that we can be. So thank you so much. Thank you.